Hey everyone, my name is Charlie and today I would like to talk about a few things I have enjoyed in July. Yes, this is my favourites video. We will begin with the books, and the first book on here is The Whalebone Theatre, which saw me through that week of illness when I could do nothing but lie in bed or on the settee and just read this rather hefty tome. This is set after the First World War has ended and then carries on past the Second World War and deals with the three Seagrave children. This is a book that I really liked for the relationship between the siblings and it just has some great character progression, some great character work. It was a fantastic book, and I'm really pleased that Katie of Books and Things recommended that I prioritise this book over the others on my TBR because it was a thoroughly enjoyable read, and she's recommended that I listen to the audiobook, and I do think I'm going to do that just because this is one of those books, similar to when I read Darling a few months ago, where I miss spending time with the characters. Whilst I'm not too happy about the way the book ended, I understand why it ended the way that it did. That part felt predictable. And yet Joanna Quinn is a fantastic writer, and the reading of this helped me figure out some things about a novel that I have been planning for a while now, and I always appreciate when I can see something in somebody's craft and help use it to inform my own writing. And The Whalebone Theatre is a book that I just know that I'm going to go back to and enjoy. I think that if you're a fan of Life After Life by Kate Atkinson or The Illumination of Ursula Flight, they have a similar tone to this book, and I think that you will really get something out of it. Then we have A Game of Hide and Seek by Elizabeth Taylor, her fifth novel and the last one that I had to read for me to have read all of her novels, and I say that I left the best until last. I adored this book. Just the character of Harriet, really. Let's just talk about her for a moment. We get to see her from her childhood through to who she is as a middle-aged woman. We get to see how she experiences the world, and she's always this shy, retiring type. It becomes a bit about the gossip and the way that people talk about her and believe things are going on in her life that actually aren't going on, but their fictions about her life are more interesting than what's actually going on. Still keep going back to that humorous scene where all of the shop girls are upstairs waxing their lips, and Harriet gets a phone call and she tears it off and rushes downstairs, and then when she goes to a party in the evening she spends the entire time covering her face up. And it's those images that stick in my mind, and they're so vivid that it feels like they actually happened, and I'm envisaging them so well, and they keep going back to them and they keep smiling about this book. And it just felt like the perfect end to my reading of Elizabeth Taylor's novels, and leaves me so excited about going and reading her short fiction now. And then we have a book that's a complete tonal change, and that is How We Disappeared by Jing-Jing Lee. I don't think that I'm ever going to reread this book. I do think that it was a one and done type piece of fiction. I learned so much about a part of the world that I didn't previously know about and what was going on in the Second World War to these characters. I think that this book is just deeply traumatic and talks about intergenerational trauma and the harshness of war and how people treated one another, the things that people will do to survive, the things that they'll tell themselves to get through traumatic situations. It is utterly awful what goes on to these characters. It is such a compelling book, and I suppose that it could link up to The Whalebone Theatre really, in that it is talking about the war but in a different part of the world, and a part of the world I don't think we think about too much when it comes to the Second World War and what it was to be living in Malaysia or Singapore at that time. It's a very tough read, but I'm glad to have read it, and Jing-Jing Lee is such a strong writer with her craft. And that's the books, so let's move on to my favourite TV and film of July. Now, there isn't much. So I'm going to begin with Calendar Girls, because this is a film that I have put off viewing for years. I didn't think it was going to be for me, and then when I was reading Victoria Wood's biography a few years ago, I found out that she'd been planning on writing an adaptation of the events that take place within this film about these real-life WI members who did this nude calendar, and she basically got gazumped by two members who went to a bigger production company, and they hired the actors that she'd originally spoken to for her script. People apparently when they watched this film way back when, believed that Calendar Girls was a Victoria Wood film, and I can definitely see where they would get that impression, but it also felt like a very British film, and I really enjoyed that. And another thing that I liked was that it was easy viewing whilst I was poorly, and also that it was in Skipton. It was filmed in Skipton and around that area, and I know a lot of that place because my brother regularly goes to sheep sales and dog sales there. He's at Skipton a lot, basically. Sheepdog trials, he's doing everything there. And so I felt this affinity with that film. And yeah, I'm just glad to have finally seen it. Then I watched some more of The X-Files. This is something I started viewing at the beginning of the year and then pushed aside in favour of getting Modern Family finished. And I haven't watched as much of this as I thought that I could have done throughout the month because I have been so heavily focused on getting the restructuring of Alice Valentine done. I still find the theme tune of this mildly terrifying, and I remember being really scared of it as a child. It's one of the reasons I put off watching it for so long. But I watch it and I can tell why this show received such acclaim back in the 90s, because it takes the regular detective show and inserts this speculation as to whether it is alien or human. And I've also continued to watch Doctor Who with Peter Capaldi. I know that I previously watched this series as it aired, and this is the last full series that I watched for quite a few years before going back when Jodie Whittaker took over as the Doctor. And I have to admit that there is still something there where I'm finding it a difficult watch, difficult to get into, really. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's getting used to a new Doctor, because I know that previously I didn't like Matt Smith's Doctor, and so I didn't rewatch those episodes for about a decade. And then when I went back and rewatched them, I was really thrilled, very much enjoyed myself. And I think it was that time away that worked. But because I've gone back and I've watched Matt Smith and now I've really liked what he did, going and watching Peter Capaldi after really enjoying that, it's having to get used to something new again. And so I think that I needed more time away, maybe. We will see as I watch more in August. And then we have music that I have listened to. So Katie Gavin of Moona released her first solo single, which is Aftertaste. And I think if you're a fan of Moona, you're going to really enjoy this. Everything that I'm about to talk about, all of the songs, just seem very similar in tone, is all I'll say. They are young women, it's somewhat mid-tempo and about turbulent relationships. So we have Griff, whose album Vertigo came out some point recently and came up recommended, and I listened to the entire thing. There are about 5 songs on the album that I really liked, but the one that I've chosen is Tears for Fun, because this is the first one that came up on my Spotify recommended and I listened to, and that got me to listen to the entire album. I think it's a good album, but similar to, and I did like this song, it's a favourite song, that's one of the reasons it's on here, but I feel like sometimes nowadays there's this tendency for an album to have one sound and it feels like there isn't a lot of variation. And I very much felt that with The Secret of Us by Gracie Abrams. I started listening to this album and I was thrilled by about the first 6 songs. And Blowing Smoke, when I heard that song, as soon as this guitar riff played, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good song, because I've heard that so many times and I always end up liking the songs that come with that. And I really enjoyed so much of this album, and then it just started to feel the same. I also don't understand the tendency now to like whisper as you're singing, like singing really quietly so that it almost feels so much more serious. Like open your mouth and sing. That's just what I wish some people would do. Because I did like these songs, but and you know, they're on the favourites for a reason, but it just felt like as the albums went on, the sound was the same and these people were just speaking with a different intonation, and I wanted them to properly give it a go at singing. You know, who am I to judge? I ain't a singer. I just have a lot of opinions. Anyway, that's me. What have been some of your favourite things of the last month? Let me know in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.